Smug looking motherfucker.
That's really good. Hey, welcome back to another episode, everybody.
We don't have an intro.
We don't have an intro, baby.
This is the intro. So, this week, I don't know if we're doing weekly or daily, but I watched Seven Samurai for the first time.
Wow.
An Akira Kurosawa film.
What year was it made?
1957.
I think that's the release that it was in America when it was originally released under the name The Magnificent Seven. And they cut out a bunch of scenes. Yeah, they cut out a bunch of scenes.
The cowboy movie?
Yeah, so the cowboy movie ripped off. Well, not ripped. Let me be very fair. They knew they were remaking. They remade that movie for Western audiences. So The Magnificent Seven was based off of The Magnificent Seven, which was the name of the American cut version of Seven Samurai when it was released a year later in America.
Was that with the Cowboys?
Yeah, it's the same movie. It's literally the same movie. There's so many things. A Bug's Life is inspired by it.
Did you know they remade Magnificent Seven with Chris Pratt back in like 2016, 2017
Yeah, I know.
or something?
I don't know. I haven't heard anything.
I saw it. It was pretty okay. So
do you watch a lot of movies from the 50s? Have you ever watched
no,
those?
I watch movies more from like the 70s and the 80s.
So first off, it's funny because you watch The Irishman and it's well known now you don't like The Irishman. You found it really boring.
Okay, yeah.
We're not going to get into it. I'm just saying you didn't like The Irishman because one of your biggest complaints is because it was like 4 hours long. So when I said, "Oh, you should watch this movie," I forgot that it was 3.5 hours long. So
I mean that initially
let's just cut down the middle. Did you like the movie?
I loved it.
You loved. So how come you like this movie when it was so long when you didn't like The Irishman?
So The Irishman,
the boring man.
Boring man. I was bored out of my mind. I forced myself to sit through that movie because I thought it was going to be
The Irishman.
Yeah.
I can understand it was made the same director, right? So Martin Scorsese.
But it was nothing like Goodfellas. Goodfellas was like.
Well, maybe that's your fault though, going in and thinking that's going to be Goodfellas when it's a different movie.
Maybe.
Once again, this is not about Irishman.
It doesn't change the fact that I was pretty bored throughout The Irishman. Anyways, we're not talking about that.
There's one Irishman fan right now in the chat. You guys are garbage. I have not seen The Irishman. I have no opinion on The Irishman. I have not seen it, so only attack him.
We should do a Irishman episode. Anyways, so Seven Samurai. I was intrigued the whole time. For whatever reason, I just found it way more interesting. I felt that I was a lot more connected to these characters.
Did you think that's because you think Mr. Kurosawa used his time, the allotted time he had, very well with each character?
Oh, definitely. Like the first half of the movie, there's an intermission at the halfway point in this movie.
Oh yeah, there is.
there's an action. The Irishman didn't have an intermission, so that
just keeps going.
That's one point it gets there.
You're like, at least I can pause this, you know?
Well, I didn't even have to pause it. It was a literal intermission. It was a 6-minute intermission, so I actually just let it keep going. Went to the bathroom and got some food and some water.
I wish movies would do that now.
I got back, it was ready.
I wish movies would do that now.
Well, there's no movies that are long enough for. Well, you want movies to be long enough.
No. I'm just saying, like movies like Star Wars. Star Wars is 2.5 hours. I mean, a little like. Even like 2-minute intermissions, whatever. That's opinion. Look, it was a different time for that movie.
No. You see, the intermission is when was when the movie's focusing on the really fucking boring character that nobody cares about. That's when you leave the theater and say, all right.
I guess nowadays, huh? But like during that time, it was the 1950s. It was probably particularly long for the time too, being 3.5 hours. So it was well known. It's like a stage show. That's how they probably saw movies during that time a little more than we do now. Now movies are just defined, right? During that time, it was still like, it was still evolving, and they were probably more like, okay, this is like a stage thing, but at the same time.
And I saw a lot of modern techniques. You mentioned the focus on the cinematography, and I noticed that he had a lot of tracking shots, a lot of following shots on characters that I thought were really impressive. And I was looking at the composition, especially the end scene. Spoilers for anybody who.
The movie's from 1954.
I mean,
Or
there's people
1950.
who
Come
haven't
on.
heard about this movie,
Yeah,
so
fair enough.
just
Spoilers.
I guess. Done. The four of the samurai die, and they have tombs or like little graves at the top of this hill, and it shows the three surviving samurai under them. Really beautifully done. It
You
looks
talk
like
where they're talking about at the
yeah.
end where he's like only the
Yeah,
he says
like
the farmers
the
have
peasants
won.
won.
We
The
have
farmers
lost.
won.
And
We've
the camera
lost.
pans up and it shows all four graves.
Yeah.
It's really well. The whole movie. What's revolutionary
Beautiful.
about this movie is its action scenes, and it's something that we're so used to today that I don't know if you really realize. Like you have to when you're watching these action scenes play, you kind of have to like stop and remember. Okay, this is 2020 now. Like we see action scenes that are so well produced. You have to you have to remember like he did multi-camera, which at the time was very much unheard of. So because what they would do with action scenes is they would say, okay, at this part, characters are coming out, they're gonna hit each other. All right, we're gonna stop, and then we're gonna go to another part. He wanted to keep the consistency with the battle, and honestly, only wanted to do like 1 or 2 shots. So I don't know how many shots were done, but I'm almost certain there weren't as many as they would have had to do if they had to do one camera shot.
So that's one critique I have of the film technically. And again, yeah, this is a 1950. This movie was made in the mid 1950s, before movies really started coming into their own. I noticed that a lot of the action didn't have a lot of weight. I know that sounds weird. So
I was about to say I actually would have
the
to disagree.
the audio's good, but the acting with the swordplay I thought was really bad. Like just the way that like specifically the bad guys interact when they're getting hit, it kind of just looks like people flinging some sticks around, and then eventually a dude falls over. And I thought that was really bad.
I'd have to.
We've had stage fighting way before 1950s, so bad acting is a way that I think a fair critique. I think the
I don't think the acting was bad,
but I think the action choreography was decent. I really liked the choreography. I just thought that the acting, like how people took hits, was really bad and sometimes overacted. That's just what I noticed, and I don't know if that's something.
What do you mean? Like when they get hit, they're like ah, and they fall over. Like what do you mean overacted? Like how do you think people are supposed to die when they get stabbed by a sword? They're just supposed to be like ugh and die. Like what do you want?
Maybe not overacted, but
underacted. What do you mean?
I'm not entirely sure, but I just know that I didn't like how people were reacting to being hit.
Did you notice the fact that there was no there was no glorification of the deaths at all? Like when people die, they were like facing the dirt.
That's fine. That's fine.
That was very different.
Even the main characters, except for Akira Kurosawa.
You're gonna have to just label them by how they are because the names.
Okay, the farmer samurai, the dude who's wild, like whoa.
The one who's kind of not really a samurai. They were all kind of shitting on him the whole time. He gave that really good speech.
He was actually a farmer.
He actually gave a really good speech.
A samurai, yeah.
Where he was like basically telling him like, it was a really good scene with him wearing the samurai armor.
Yeah. When he died, he really he killed the bad guy's leader.
Yeah, he killed the bandit leader.
Yeah, so that wasn't quite as unglorified because he's still, but like when he
was
fell
face down in the dirt. He was face down in the mud, man. In the rain, they were just like what happened to him? And they just see him. He's like,
there wasn't any close up of him being like,
no.
So I know what you mean by they weren't glorified. However, I can't get over the way that people reacted to being hit, because like I was seeing, like especially when people were on horseback. I know that's really hard to do.
They're on real horses.
I know they're on real horses, but I can't. It ruined the immersion of the fights for me, seeing how they reacted to being hit. Like, okay, so for stage fighting, you're supposed to swing really far away from people. And
yeah, I don't know if you can really use your own. To be fair, I don't know if you can use your knowledge of today. You're using modern knowledge. This is the 50s.
But I'm coming from theater, stage acting. I don't think stage acting has changed that much within the last decade. Stage acting has been
The last decade,
around
that's
for
still way ahead of Seven Samurai, my friend.
my bad. The last what is it, century?
Yeah.
It hasn't changed. They've been doing stage acting since the 50s.
Did the
Way before
50s?
the
Yeah, I
50s.
know. Way. Maybe.
Like,
Look,
way
I
back
mean,
in
not
the
to
day.
not to stick to the fighting. I mean, what do you think about, like, were there any specific characters that you fell in love with? Were there?
Oh, of course. I love the farmer samurai, of course.
What'd you like? Him?
Because he directly reminded me of the character from I think it's Samurai Champloo.
Mugen?
Or is it Champloo? Yeah, Mugen. And I don't know, they just seemed exactly the same. I think that character was directly based on this character because when they call him like a wild dog, that's I'm pretty sure that's how they described
the difference is that Mugen knew how to actually fight really well.
This guy
the
knew how to,
the farmer at the beginning, he wasn't
the
like
farmer
great.
samurai. No, the farmer samurai. The dude, one of the fucking assholes in the bar was like, this guy just like killed a bunch of people outside, and I told him to come over here. He's actually a really good sword fighter, you know. And
If I'm correct, he gets clowned a lot by like the whole squad.
yeah, of course he
They
gets
clown
clowned on. They clown on him a lot, but that doesn't change that he was actually a decent sword fighter.
What do you think about the silent, almost silent one, right? Where he's dealing with the one guy with the sticks, and the guy's like, he's like, well, if you used real steel, you would be dead by now. And the guy's like, what? Fight me now!
Yeah, that guy also reminded me of the
silent one. I don't remember his name, but I know what you're talking about.
from Samurai Champloo. Like that seemed like direct inspiration for both of those characters, and that might be why I was more interested in this movie, because I already saw the anime and I really loved the anime. So I was like, oh.
Soy face looking ass.
Okay, make that the thumbnail.
Oh God. Well, so were there any standout scenes other than, of course, the ending battle, which you don't seem to care for? But were there any other standout scenes to
I
you?
liked it. I liked the farmer samurai.
Like anything with
his
him?
post. Anything with him. I loved it. Like you mentioned, when he gets the armor from the peasants, and they tell him that's samurai armor. These people hunt samurai. Oh, well, that's never mind. That's the whole ending scene is probably my favorite.
You mean where they're talking about how they
yeah,
lost? The
and
whole
like the
realization.
dude looks at the girl he fucked, and he's like, "She just ghosted me, bro."
Yeah, she kind of acts like she doesn't know him, right? She's like,
Yeah, and it's and I think that was like directly compared. Like that's part of why the leader of the group said, you know, they won, we lost, because he looks at that kid, and he sees kind of like the heartbreak in that kid, and he's just like, yeah, we got the short end of the stick here.
I mean,
all of our.
they did it all for food, right?
I know they knew what they were getting into.
Maybe he didn't. You think the leader expected to lose that many men? And he expected death, but he didn't expect maybe that much to lose more than half of their group.
Maybe.
I think there's only 7 of them.
I thought it was, I don't know. I thought it was strange. Like, there was definitely. It wasn't even bittersweet. It was mostly bitter by the end of the movie. There was very little closure at the end of the film, and I'm not sure what to attribute that to. It doesn't feel. I know the town's saved, but like, I don't know if the town. It's almost like was it worth it to save this town?
Everything went right back to how it was. The samurai are back to being broke and they don't have shit. It's right back to the same old shit, really.
Oh, another thing I liked was the really shitty samurai that was getting clowned on by those 3 thugs in the bar. They're like, "Oh, he's a little bitch," and he pulled his sword out, so we beat the shit out of him. It's just like, I thought that dude was like, I thought he was gonna be a big character because they kind of put a little bit of extra focus on that pussy samurai. I thought he was just like, I don't like to pull my sword out because I hurt someone I cared about or some shit. Turns out he really was just a fucking pussy, and the film didn't give a shit about him. I don't know why they gave that much extra attention, but whatever.
I think it was the whole point is that like there's 7 varying. They're all different people. You know what I mean? Like they're all different people who.
Well, no,
have
no, not
different-
he wasn't one of the seven samurai. He was just some rando.
Oh,
that
I mean, like the
felt
set,
a little-
the people, everybody that's written in this film they're written like people. They're not like here's a character in a thing, right? And the character's gonna have these tropes. It's more like every person has their own. They have their own views. They have their own way of approaching things.
Yeah. The dude's wife, when she went back into the burning house,
Mhm.
I was really confused about that.
What do you mean?
Like so one of the peasants had a wife, and that was a big plot point because he lost his wife to the bandits, and then the samurai go to burn the house down that the bandits are living in, and he sees his wife, or the samurai see this woman get up, and it's his wife. He doesn't know his wife's in there, so he's freaking out. He's like, he just looks at her, and she looks at him, and she's like, oh, and fucking goes and dies. And I'm like, excuse me? Like, was he raping his wife or something? Like that never got explained. That none of that like. Like what the fuck happened there? Was she suicidal or something? Did she have Stockholm syndrome and she wanted to die with the bandits? I don't fucking know. And then the dude gets one of the samurai killed. And I'm like, what the fuck was the point? Just to get the samurai killed? Like, holy shit, I don't know. That's something that
I mean,
really
did you like it when
confused
your
me.
favorite samurai grabbed the kid and was crying in the water? It was like, did your heart hurt when you saw that? He's holding the kid.
Favorites.
The farm one.
Oh yeah, and he said, "This baby is me.
He's like
And
crying.
this happened to me too."
He's like sitting there crying. That's actually like that's a pretty important moment for that character. That
Like,
character,
no,
he probably was fleshed out the most, I would say, in that movie. He was like,
well, him and the young apprentice.
yeah. I mean,
They
a lot
both got
of the
fleshed out.
actors they picked the top-notch Japanese actors of the time for these for all these characters, and I think it shows. I mean, these people are insanely good at what they were doing, both in physical interpretation and you know, even verbally. I think they handled each role. I can't recall a single one where I was like, oh, you know, this guy sucks compared to all these. Like, none of them were like outshining one another. I think that was the other perfect thing, because I always feel like now, especially if you put like 7 actors in a movie most of the time, like big name actors, right? Like, what if we put the 7 biggest big name actors today? I mean, there's going to be one that's going to outshine another, right? You know, I feel like that was just beautiful.
I don't know. I think there was some outshining going on. Specifically, there was 3 samurai, and I don't want to sound racist, but they kind of looked the same. There were 3 fat samurai, or at least 2 of them, and
I don't
they
want to
didn't
sound racist.
well, they didn't get a lot of screen time, except for one of them towards the end, who dies because Farmer Samurai left his post. So one of
Dylan
them
relates
died.
with the fuck up.
And
Just agrees. Yeah, I do.
I'm a fuck up. And so I don't. Some of the actors I felt did get outshined, unfortunately. But everybody was great, like except
know,
for the
I
peasants.
feel like there wasn't
I hated
really
the peasants in this movie.
Do you mean like
They were
they're just terrible people, like as people in the movie? You're saying like
No, I meant like
the actors?
acting.
Well, yeah, they're all
were
like.
constantly crying. They were like,
What do you expect them to do? What do you expect them to do? They're not
is that
fighters.
normal?
They're literally.
Is that a normal thing?
These
It's like
people
they're
are coming to your village to kill you, Dylan, and you can't fight. You only know how to farm, and these people are coming to kill you, and they're definitely gonna burn your village, rape your wife, kill your children, and then slaughter you. What would you do? You can't fight.
But they're constantly doing it. The villagers never grow.
Yeah, they do. They grow at the end.
They fight. They help fight the enemies. But it doesn't feel like they actually grow at all. Like they're all still whiny bitches. And the dude whose wife died Like after he comes back,
Yeah.
like the movie stops focusing on him. Like the movie kept focusing on these things and then stopped focusing on them without I feel any payoff. Except for like the dude's wife died. I don't know, is that supposed to be the payoff? The wife died and...
The wife dying in the fire?
Oh, and also, did you notice the love interest, the female love interest in this movie?
Yeah.
Her dad. Did you get any incestual, pedo, rapey vibes from that? I got some rapey vibes from that.
What were you?
I got some.
How are you viewing this movie? We should have recorded you watching this movie. Is what we should have did. Like half it's like, yeah, this is cool. That's like, is he gonna rape her? Why was he in the fire? Why'd you go to the fire? I hate this village. Wait, that's probably why the ending hit you even worse, because you hated the villagers. You were just like, the samurai should have just let them all die. The samurai should have just let them die. I was rooting for the bandits. Did you get any emotion from this? Did you like feel elated with the characters? Did you cry with the characters?
Of course.
Well,
I didn't cry.
I'm not saying you literally cried. Did you feel sad when your favorite character was dead in the mud?
I felt very.
Did you expect him
to
die? Did you thought because there was so much focus on
I
him?
I expected him to die because I don't know. I just expected him to die because they were putting so much emphasis on him that's the emotional point in the film, is when you see these characters you've grown this whole movie with just die. Just fucking die. Like, I expected some people to... In fact, actually, I'll be honest with you. I expected 6 of them to die. And one of them to be... I expected the young guy to live.
I think it's more realistic that, like, 3 survived at the very least. It's like...
No, like, definitely. Like, a
lot of these guys are masters.
It was a very grounded movie. I thought the bandits could have used more characterization.
I think that would have stretched the film out a little too much.
I know.
We don't need to know that. Look, we already have 7 guys we have to focus on.
I know. But I mean, we didn't even really.
I mean, think of things like the Avengers. Like,
I mean,
it took them. I think it took them a lot longer to get some characterization out of all those films than over this one. Sometimes, like for some characters, not all of them.
Well, that's really hard to, because imagine if each of these characters got their own prequel movie and then
don't give Hollywood ideas. Don't give Hollywood ideas. Don't give them ideas.
It's like, bring back Seven Samurai.
The Seven Samurai cinematic universe, or the Seven Samurai cinematic universe. Oh God. All right, so I'd say kind of a lightning just sum up. Like, I hate ratings, but honestly, I mean. Nah, I don't know. I don't know if we should even do. What do you think? Ratings?
I think it's a must see.
You think it's a must see? I like those kind of ratings. Dylan broke the barrier by just saying it's a must see.
It's a must see.
For what reasons? Why do you personally think it's a must see? Like, just because for history?
It's because, well, first off, it's a classic samurai movie. So if you like samurais, you got to see this samurai movie. And I like samurai.
I would say this is probably the must see samurai movie out of all.
This is the must see. It teaches a lot about build up. Like the first half of this film is nothing but building up the world, these characters, and then the second half is that build up paying off. So that's part of why The Irishman lost me. There wasn't any build up.
The Irishman was coming back.
It's coming back, man. It's coming back.
You hate this damn movie.
The first half of the movie is the same as the second half. Talking a little bit.
See, that's the difference in Seven Samurai. The first half is totally different from the second. Like,
exactly. So I wasn't fatigued by this movie because it almost felt like I was watching 2 different movies by the end of it, and they both ended up being the same ending, and I really enjoyed it. I thought the characters were all funny, relatable. I wanted to see the samurais win. I grew with them, so I grew attached to these characters, and I think a lot of people would get attached to these characters too. And like you said, this is a classic movie, and I noticed that it had a lot of modern techniques going on, especially with the camera and the composition. So this director, definitely brilliant for the time.
I think there's definitely a lot more Kurosawa films you've got to see in your own time, either on your own time, or maybe we'll put some more up here. some other time, but I agree with you. The Seven Samurai and Kurosawa in general are must-sees. This one is a must-see if you haven't. Hopefully this will push you towards watching. You gotta watch. I mean, you watch it through the Criterion.
No. Okay. So a little.
I pirated it.
No, a little side rant. I rented it on YouTube, and that was fine.
Was that the Criterion version?
Yeah, it was the Criterion Channel version. But I don't know if the Criterion Channel is its own streaming service. It has movies like Taxi Driver, Seven Samurai,
a whole bunch of classics, a ton.
All classics, including a lot of modern indie classics, if that makes any sense. Like not like Moonlight
just
or
good
anything,
movies.
but well, I don't know. I don't know if they're good or not, 'cause I've never heard of them.
But,
I've never seen Lemley or anything.
Nonetheless, you said the app didn't really work on it. Doesn't have a lot of compatibility with many things.
So the Criterion
I didn't even know it
Channel,
existed. I think you can only use
works,
the website.
The Criterion Channel works with Apple TV, Roku, Amazon, Fire Stick, Alexa, whatever.
Does it have an Xbox app?
I don't think so. Maybe, I don't know. But it doesn't work with Chromecast, and my TV has a built-in Chromecast, so I really wanted to watch. So I tried to get a subscription. I tried to get a subscription to the Criterion Channel, and then I couldn't do that. And then I was like, well, fuck this. One movie I really want to see. Have you seen A Boy and His Dog?
We're not going to talk about A Boy and His Dog. I don't know what that is, but we're not going to talk about that right now. We're talking.
It's a post-apocalyptic movie. It's really good. That might be the next one.
Nonetheless, you had to watch it through. I mean, I think the best way, it's easily the best way to watch this movie now is the Criterion re-release. The amount of effort they went through to restoring this looks great. The movie looks very good in high definition. Obviously, it's an older film, of course, much older film. So it's gonna have those kind of dated things, like with maybe. With me, I don't think the movie. It's black and white.
It's in 4:3.
Yeah, I mean which is fine.
It's a square ratio. That's what film was back in the day.
Yeah. So, like I said, Seven Samurai. Is it in 4:3? I think you can watch it without 4:3. I think they have it in.
Well, maybe the Criterion Channel's got it, but I don't fucking know.
You got to go buy the Blu-ray for that, baby.
But the Criterion Channel, it had three things. It had two audio commentaries, and it had 1 50-minute behind the scenes of the movie.
They had that on the YouTube video. That's kind of cool.
No, they did not have that on the Criterion Channel. I think they have.
Well, yeah. They include everything that the Blu-ray has. You can buy a Blu-ray, which I recommend if you like buying movies. But if not, Criterion does have a streaming service, which hopefully in time will have more access. I think that's the biggest part. It just needs more access.
Please sponsor us, Criterion. Please, we love your movies. Please,
send me all your films. All your films. All right. That's about it, huh?
Yeah, I think that's about it. I've said everything I wanted to say. Is there anything you want to say about Seven Samurai?
One of my favorite samurai films of all time. One of my favorite films of all time. Kurosawa is a absolute genius, and I don't know. It's a must see. I really couldn't understand if somebody watched this and was like, "This movie is crap." I'm like, why? I mean, how could you? I can understand having gripes with it, but maybe
because they didn't see Irishman first.
Maybe, I don't know. I personally loved it. I think everything about it is just magnificent.
Times 7.
Shut up.